You ever hear that saying that goes something along the lines of one argument or one conflict, I guess you could say, should not be the downfall of years' worth of a friendship? I think that kind of principle sort of applies here, as today we're talking about Montreal Canadiens defenseman Jeff Petry, and how, according to certain people in the Montreal media, he has officially demanded a trade. Now, our source comes over here from RDS, live on the broadcast the other day. It was actually Francois Gagnon who went out there and confirmed the entire thing. It's in a tweet right here, posted by a user named Kevin, and he posted the tweet pretty much saying that Gagnon had indeed confirmed Petry requested a trade, and the video linked is a French video. It's a minute long, and it goes over the entire thing. Now, you know me. My French sucks. I took French up until grade 12 in high school, and I graduated with a 90% average just because I needed that for the principal's role. Aside from that, though, it's been 4 years since I went to high school, and so things are a little different now. We're heading over instead onto this website over here, inthecoliseum.com. Of course, though, this is in French, so it's actually dans les coulisses, which is probably not correct. I'm sorry, Montreal. They posted this article that pretty much summarizes everything that we need to know when it comes to the Jeff Petry thing. Jeff Petry, translated from French into English, would have officially asked to be traded, according to Francois Gagnon. And in this piece, there are indeed a few other sources of quotes and different people in the media that said stuff regarding Jeff Petry and his status on the team. But before we go over any of that, I wanted to highlight why I mentioned that little thing in the intro about how one conflict or one disagreement should not be the throwing away of years' worth of a friendship in certain circumstances. Obviously, if somebody screws you over big time, you probably have the right to remove them from your life, but just in a general sense, I think it's a pretty good piece of advice to live by. Why do I bring that up? Well, because Jeff Petry, 34 years old, 6'3", 207, a right-handed defenseman, one of the best defensemen the Canadiens have had in a very long time, at his best, of course, had 4 straight 40-point years, with the last year being in 55 games played, 42 total points and 12 goals, also was one of the top guys in the playoffs that allowed the Montreal Canadiens to really go out there and do their thing. He stepped up big time in more ways than one when Shea Weber was out with injury, and for a good chunk of the past half-decade, Jeff Petry has been seen as one of the more underrated defensemen in the entire NHL. This year, though, he's been bad. 6 points, 37 games played, he's a -7 on the year, and the overall quality of play that Petry exhibits on the ice is kind of representative of the entire Canadiens organization as a whole, from last year's Stanley Cup Finals to now. It's Michael Jackson really, really bad. The guy goes out there, shoots pucks in the shin pads on the power play, he doesn't have the same effectiveness, he doesn't really seem to have the same level of care for the game as he did last year when the team made the finals. And there have been so many things that have degraded in terms of Jeff Petry's on-ice product that the Petry from last year versus the Petry from this year, it's like a completely different player. Although, I'm going to go out there on a limb and say this. I said this in the previous video, I'll say it again right here. Jeff Petry, playing on a Montreal Canadiens team that is the worst in the league, or one of the worst in the league, and playing this poorly for, when did the season start? October? So October, November, December, January, now February. So let's just say January, 4 months. 4 months of Jeff Petry playing this poorly is not going to erase the last 4 years worth of value that he has brought the Habs. If you're going to go out there and talk about a Jeff Petry trade, you're not trading for Jeff Petry, the guy who has got 6 points in 37 games played, and in isolation is this bad defenseman making a whole bunch of money. He's making $6.25 million bucks till 2024-2025. You're trading for the guy, hopefully at least, that went out there with 4 straight 40-point years and who just happens to be in the midst of a bad year. 4 months worth of play this season is not going to erase the entire 4 years worth of value that Petry has went out there and accumulated for himself. That's just not how it works. So, if any team is going to go out there and think about the idea of a Jeff Petry trade, these guys are going to have to be pretty optimistic that they can go out there and make that old Petry come back and get this guy back up to 40 points on a season, give this guy some power play time, and actually give him a strategy that works. which is why we head back over to this article on danslescoulisses.com. They have themselves a quote from Montreal Canadiens' new GM Kent Hughes, where he does indeed talk about on TV how, yes, if we can find a trade that is good for the club and good for Jeff Petry at the same time, all options are indeed on the table. Here is an interview that he did with La Presse earlier as well, where Hughes goes out there and pretty much highlights the same direction, indicating publicly that Petry had not asked to be traded. We are aware of what's going on in our lives. This is not the ideal context to play. At the same time, you are a part of this team. If there's a chance it will work out on both sides to trade you, we'll trade you. But until this situation arises, you are part of the Canadiens and you have to do your best. You then had yourselves in this article the video of François Gagnon on TV going out there and talking about the trade idea. He also says this: if he does leave, there won't be too much in return. Petry, if the transaction arises, he will leave. But trading Petry with the contract he has in his pocket, that may simply mean removing the Canadian from that contract. Fans shouldn't expect to get another first-round draft pick and the moon for a guy who wants to leave, François Gagnon said. And so, with this idea, I go out there and I say, okay, even though Jeff Petry sucks this year, even though this guy is probably playing worse than the value of a 6th or a 7th round pick, you're still going to get something for him, right? Not a first, probably not a second, well, maybe a second, I don't know. Maybe not a big freaking haul, especially for a guy who has declined in the way that he has. But you still are going to have some value because some team is going to go out there and say, man, we really believe in ourselves. We really do think that we're trading for the Jeff Petry of 40 points of the few seasons prior, who is just laying dormant in the Jeff Petry that exists today. And any team that's going to go out there is going to pay somewhat of a price. It's not going to be pretty significantly high, like a first or whatever, but we're still going to see ourselves likely some form of movement, especially if Jeff Petry himself wants that to happen. You take a look at the contract, he does have a modified no-trade clause and a no-move, so if he does indeed have himself the opportunity, it appears that from what Gagnon is saying on TV, Petry will likely take it. There is indeed an entire list, a laundry list here on the article. Recall that Petry was only the 4th most used defender last night, ahead of Chris Weidman and Cale Clegg, that he has a no-trade clause allowing him to identify 15 teams to which he does not want to be traded, that he still has 3 years of a contract at a cap hit of 6.25, that his lack of production and leadership has been talked about since the start of the season, that he didn't come to the defense of Samuel Montembeault on Saturday night at the Bell Center, that he wasn't wearing an A last night, that he must be better than now if he wants to be traded quickly. Yeah, that's a laundry list right there. And that his relationship with coach Dominique Ducharme seems to have left something to be desired. He criticized the structure of the team after the game a few weeks ago, and on Friday, he was among those who did not come to the coach quickly when the latter whistled to call the world to center ice. So there is indeed some stuff going on here, I would think, that probably transcends just the regular coach-player relationship. Oh, go out there, do this on the power play, this is our plan, go out there and shoot the puck into a shin pad or two. Probably a few more things going on there, and I don't want to go out there and speculate, but if things have gotten as bad as the on-ice product would indicate, then yeah, I could totally understand why Jeff Petry would want to be traded if this is indeed the case. Furthermore, you have yourselves the entire thing with his family as well, where all his folks are down there in the States because of the regulations in Quebec. I would think that if Kent Hughes had an opportunity to trade Jeff Petry, he would probably maybe like to go to an American team, so I guess we probably could rule him out on a trade back to the Edmonton Oilers. But either way, there was indeed the entire thing as well of Petry and his wife, Julie Petry, going out there talking about how Montreal people are trashing her husband online and DMing her about it, and it's like, yeah, stop that. Don't go out there and harass these players and the family of these players. That's not cool. Even if you don't like the quality of what these people are doing on the ice, their families definitely don't deserve to hear about it, so stay out of her DMs, please. Talk to me in the comments, though. What do you think about the entire idea of Jeff Petry asking for a trade? Where do you see this guy ending up, and how well do you think he'll perform should he get placed onto a new NHL team? Will he be as bad as he is right now in Montreal for 2021-2022? Or will we see somewhat of a return to form for Petry, where he goes back to a 40-point pace, or maybe even a higher pace, because last year he had 40 points in 50-something games. So, talk to me in the comments, let your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.